Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are watching this around the world. Welcome to Falls from Iron, and I am Gatesy, your host. We are doing the West Ham United squad player tier lists for season 2022-2023. A little bit of housekeeping, if I may. Please don't forget to like, comment on and share the stream. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, we thank you very much indeed for your support. Now, sitting in the green room, I have one of the heavy hitters of West Ham fan YouTube channels. I'm very pleased to get him on board, and I'm going to bring him in now and say hello to Gio. How are you, sir?
I am good. Thank you very much for having me.
No, it's always my pleasure, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it, actually. I like doing these kind of videos. It's a bit different being in the hot seat rather than the 1-5 in the questions. Always makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. I'm not sure why. It just does. I feel out of control and I don't like it.
A role
How are you doing yourself? In control a bit.
Not bad. I'm good. I'm just going to get this little bit out of the way, and obviously I'm fairly confident that everybody watching this will know exactly who you are and where to find you. But the one thing I would like to point them to, if I may, is that Hammers Chat have a Patreon that they can be supported via, and I can tell you it's very good value for money from a personal standpoint, because I am an addict level member. I'm quite. I get involved a little bit on the WhatsApp group, it has to be said, but you know, I like a little bit of back and forth and a little bit of involvement. But there's a different tiers of how you can support the lads, entry level going up to the nutcases like me. So if any of you guys aren't currently on the Patreon group, you've got the link there on the banner. Please consider giving them your support, and thank you very much indeed for listening. Gio.
Again. Yes.
I have got you here for a very specific purpose, young man. So here it is. This is the tier list. So on the bottom, we have the West Ham United first team squad as per Wikipedia. And above that, we have a tier list going from top to bottom. Players who are long-term players, so players that will be at the club for 3+ seasons. 1 or 2 seasons is the next tier below that. Not sure is the next one below that. And a brutal but to the point, see ya at the bottom. And it's really important to note for the people watching this is Gio's opinions on the players if he was in charge of West Ham, not what he thinks David Moyes thinks of them. Are you sitting comfortably, Gio?
Relatively.
Then we'll begin, and we're going to go in the alphabet. First player out of the gate is Mr. Michail Antonio. Gio, talk to me.
This is an easy one. You're starting me nicely here. He's going to go in 1 or 2 seasons, isn't he? I think he's definitely got a little future with us, but nothing beyond that. We won't probably sell him for money. I'd imagine he'll be here till the end of his contract, possibly his last of a club. But he's got a job to do next season. Obviously, we need to get somebody in and knocks him out of the starting 11. But the good thing with Antonio being out of the starting 11 is he can either be the sort of backup striker, but he can also be the backup winger on the right or the left. There's going to be games next season where it's feasible that we'll have a new striker, and Antonio will still be in the starting 11 alongside him. So straight in at 1 or 2 seasons for me, Gitsy.
Nice and straightforward. This next one could be interesting because not a player that is actually one of ours, but Alphonse Areola. What would you do if you was in charge with him?
I'd buy him. So put him in the long term, please. Yeah, get him up in the top one. He's 11 million. I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? Surely.
I agree. It's the most important position on the park for me.
Yeah, I think if he hadn't had this season at West Ham, would I want to spend 11 million? So after his Fulham loan spell, would I spend 11 million? I'd be wary of it, I'll be honest with you. I was impressed by what he did at Fulham, but I think playing in a relegation side is a lot different to playing in a side competing for European football, because naturally you're busier down the bottom, therefore it's easier to look good. It's when you don't have that much saves to make, and as you climb up the Premier League, generally distribution becomes a more important factor in your game as well as a goalkeeper. And I think Areola ticks all the boxes for us, but because we've had him for the season, I've had a look at him to some extent, maybe not as much as I would have liked, but I'm happy with what I've seen, happy with the fee of 11 million. I think it's a no-brainer. French-speaking goalkeeper behind Kurt Zouma as well. Will it make a difference? Probably not, but you never know, do you? It's just a little thing to tick off. So, yeah, straight in at long-term, please, Gatesy.
Yeah, and I think that just to sort of backtrack a little bit, that save that he made in the second leg against Seville was absolutely pivotal to our progress. He doesn't make that save. We're 1-0 down on the night, 2-0 down in the tie. It's very unlikely, I would suggest, that we would find ourselves playing a quarter-final against Lyon. So that save alone was, well, that's worth whatever we've paid as far as the loan fees concerned. Pay the money, get him in. I agree. Okay, so the next player I'd like to talk to you about, Gio, and is Harrison Ashby. Talk to me your thoughts on him.
Get him straight next to Areola, get to right in the long term. Would have liked to see him a bit more of him, actually, but hopefully we'll see more of him next season. I think the Ryan Fredericks has been a bit of an issue there. I think he's almost in Harrison Ashby's development path. But David Moyes himself has said that he's the closest player for the under-23s to Premier League football. Well, let's see a bit more of it. Obviously, the set-piece taker for the under-23s as well. And I'm quite excited about his future because while he perhaps hasn't played for West Ham's first team, he's very much a big part of Scotland under-21s. The right-backs in Scotland's first team, Nathan Patterson's really good, but that's about it. So actually, I think there's a route into Scotland's first team for him pretty soon, actually. If you can get first-team games for West Ham, he'll be in the national side as well very quickly. So I'm excited for the future of Harrison Ashby.
With him being, as you say there, David Moyes has said himself, he's the closest of the under-23s to making the breakthrough into the first team. Surely there's been opportunities through the season. I know he played in the League Cup game away to Spurs, but surely there's been other opportunities this season in the Premier League. One that springs to mind, the away game at Watford, we're 4-1 up. Why not throw him on in a game like that? Why is he not giving him the minutes in the first team, do you think?
I don't know. I think Moyes just likes to keep the more experienced players happy. I can understand it. It's a big call to leave somebody like, say, Alex Kral or Andrei Yarmolenko, leave them out of the squad completely and put a youngster in ahead of them, whether it's Ashby or like Flex or that. It's a big call from the manager and it's quite a big statement. And it doesn't happen very often in the Premier League, not just at West Ham, other Premier League clubs do it as well. They just pick the experienced players. So I think there's just too much options ahead of Harrison Ashby. For now, we'll get on to a couple of them in a minute. But next season, the expectancy is that Ryan Fredericks will depart West Ham. Therefore, Ashby automatically moves up a rank in terms of the right backs, and Ben Johnson obviously covering at left back more and more. And it seems, given the substitution against Lyon, that Moyes rates Johnson as a left back more than Masuaku. So perhaps that will also get Johnson out of his way of progress as well. I expect we'll see more of Ashby next season, though.
I rate my French Bulldog as better left back than Arthur Masuaku.
I do as well. I've never met him.
Much. Okay, next one. Very much a Marmite figure, this guy. Saeed Benrahma. Are you a lover or a hater?
I'm neither. I'm somewhere in the middle, really. I'm going to put him in the C year, though.
Ooh.
Because, yeah, I think you could still get 20 million for him, maybe. I think his transfer value plays a big part of the reason that I would sell him this summer. I think he's too risky for David Moyes. I just think he doesn't really fit what we're trying to do, what Moyes wants to do. Recent games, we've seen him bottle a couple of challenges, and he loses the ball a lot, but I don't really blame him for that because he's trying to make something happen. I think you've got to have a player in your team that's willing to drive at defences and try and create something. But it's when he's out of possession, he's not the hardest worker. Sometimes he does work back and stuff, but there's other times where he's not quite got the same application as like Fornals and Jared Bowen. And I think that's always going to hinder him. If we had a different manager, I'd say, yeah, Benrahma may have a future at West Ham, but under David Moyes, I don't think he does. And like I said, because of the price tag attached to him, I think there's much better suitors out there for David Moyes. So yeah, I'd be looking to sell Benrahma actually. And it's a shame really, because I was excited when we bought him, and he's got the ability. I just don't think he's got the work rate or the consistency really, which is frustrating.
There was a rumour that I saw yesterday. It was around about the time, obviously, as we record this is the day after the Brentford game. And there was a rumour I saw, and it may be no more than a rumour, but someone put something out there saying that Brentford are looking to get him back at Brentford in the summer, possibly in a swap deal. Now, again, if I was just to indulge me here, Gio, if you was the West Ham manager and Brentford knocked on your door and said, we would like to take Saeed Benrahma back and we will let you have either Ivan Toney or Brian Mbeumo as part of the deal, which one do you think you would be inclined to plump for, and what would be the reason behind that decision?
Naturally, I want to say Ivan Toney because we don't have a striker at the minute, really. But given that in the summer I expect to sign a striker, I think Mbeumo would probably offer a little bit more, I think, for West Ham. So I'd probably go for him, actually, because, like I said, the expectancy is we'd spend 50 million or so on a striker better than Ivan Toney. I think Ivan Toney is a good Premier League striker at best. I don't think he's quite good enough for a team playing European football or anything like that. And he's been very purple patch. I remember earlier in the season, he scored a hat-trick. I can't remember who it was against. He scored a hat-trick. I think two of them were pens as well. Then there was this well, we should have signed Toney. I thought, hang on, he's only got 7 goals this season. 3 were literally yesterday. We're 2/3 through the season. He's only just scored 7. So I'm not Toney's biggest fan. He's done better than I thought he would, but I wouldn't like to see him at West Ham. I wouldn't bend over backwards to him at West Ham.
Fair enough. Okay, we move on now to a guy that I think he's a very strong contender for Hammer of the Year myself. Jarrod Bowen.
Yeah, straight in the top. Oh, the top line's filling up a bit. I like that. The last thing you want to do is get the squad in. It's everyone's down the very bottom tier, do you? You want to see them at the top. But Jarrod Bowen goes in the top. One of the first names on the team sheet alongside Kurt Zouma and Declan Rice at the minute. Just got everything. Where would we be without him this season? I think he is the perfect. Unlike Benrahma, I think Bowen is the perfect fit for Moyes, though. And this is why I think Bowen might be wasted at other clubs. Let's talk of Liverpool. I don't think he'd work as well at Liverpool because part of his appeal is his work rate, is there's defensive actions and stuff. And it sounds a bit weird saying an attacker wouldn't have to do as much at the other club, so he's going to suffer for it. But I think he would. I think that is part of what you get with Jarrod Bowen. He's at the right club, playing for the right manager. And he's the right player for us as well. He's a joy to watch. And when he's in the team, you've got a chance of scoring goals. And if you've got a chance of scoring goals, you've got a chance of winning the game. A very influential player. We always have one player that's influential, don't we? Last season, we had Jesse Lingard for the second half of it. We had Dimitri Payet for a while and Marko Natovic. We've always got one attacker we cling to because that's the one that makes our attack tick. Well, at the minute, it's Jarrod Bowen.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever Danny Dyer's doing to keep him firing, then keep.
We need more Danny Dyers.
Many more years. We do.
Are any of these lads single?
Exactly. Get a few mates around there. Yeah, no problem. Next guy. Last season, I personally thought he was the best. I thought he was the Hammer of the Year personally, if I was picking it. This season, for a multitude of reasons, it hasn't quite been at the same heights. But talk to me about your thoughts on Vladimir Coufal.
1 or 2 seasons, I'd put him in there. Age related, is he 30 now? Maybe. Certainly, if he's not far off it, he's about that age anyway. I think we don't really have money in the budget for a right back this summer, possibly not even one next summer. But the summer beyond that, either Harrison Ashby is now ready to be playing first team football for West Ham. Ben Johnson's developed really good, or we need to go splash money on a right back. It's one of those 3 things. All those 3 things, though, is not good news for Vladimir Coufal because he'll be 32, going on 33. He might have a squad role beyond that, but at the minute, I'd be surprised if he did. For the reasons that we'd still have Ashby, Johnson, possibly another right back as well. So we're overloaded in that area, but he's definitely got a job to do. Fantastic last season. It's not worked out this season. Is it because of the injury? I think you can give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'll tell you what, you're going to use that as a reason for his poor performances, fine. He better make sure he's got a good season next season then, doesn't he? Because he's had one excellent one and one pretty miserable one so far. Still a good buy for £5 million, but yeah, I'm happy with him for the next couple of seasons, Gatesy. But beyond that, I think we need a bit more of a long-term plan. Fair
enough. The next player out of the gate is the guy that opposite side to the back four to him. Mr. Aaron Cresswell has been a fantastic servant to the club, but is his time drawing to a close if Mr. Gio was in charge?
No, 1 or 2 seasons. An easy one for me. This get him in there. I am like an Aaron Cresswell fanboy. I have to admit, I do really like Aaron Cresswell quite a lot as well. But we need a new left back. But it's not to replace Aaron Cresswell, it's to replace Arthur Masuaku. Spoiler, what's coming up in a few minutes. But what it should do, hopefully, is either puts Cresswell on the bench or somebody that's maybe a little bit younger and a bit too inexperienced. But Cresswell's still good enough to compete next season in Premier League. He's still good. He's still a Premier League standard left back. We've not got somebody that's vastly on the decline or anything like that yet. That day will come soon. He's 32, 33 now. So we need to get a younger left back in. But what it does do is takes the pressure off that person. I'm a big fan of Aaron Hickey. I don't think he's quite ready for the Premier League, but I think he is good enough to be in the Premier League. Cresswell's almost perfect for him. Enough experience, the right age, so that in a couple of seasons we've got a new left back. Cresswell moves to the bench. So yeah, 1 or 2 seasons. I'd like him to finish his career at West Ham. I will say that. I'd like him to go on and get a testimonial with us as well. I think he's been a fantastic servant. I absolutely loved him at West Ham, and the only reason he's in there is because of age. If he was younger, he'd be in the top one.
Fair enough. The next guy, absolute value for money signing this guy, 2-3 million quid. Ridiculous value. Craig Dawson, what are your thoughts?
Also in the 1 or 2 seasons. But listen, that's 4 players now, and all 4 players are for the same reasons. It's not question marks over ability, it's just age. It's purely an age thing for all 4 players here. I think Dawson's got a role to play going forward. Will we get a big centre-back in the summer that puts him on the bench? Hopefully, that has to be the aim. That's what you've got to go out for. You're going to go out and get a centre-back. You've got to get one better than that's currently in your centre-back pairing. Also, Bonner coming back from injury may see Dawson go on the bench anyway. But even if he's only on the bench, it's still a good role for him to have. He's still got something to offer. Homegrown as well, which is not something you can dismiss too lightly. When you're doing these kind of like thought process videos, you need to take into consideration the homegrown players. Will give 100%. And do you know something? I'd imagine his wages are relatively cheap for the Premier League. I'd be surprised if he's on over 50 grand a week. And I don't think he's someone that would complain either. I think if he only played quarter of the season, I think he'd almost be okay with that. You know, we took him in on loan initially, and he didn't really play until Christmas time. 0 complaints, worked hard, got in the team, took his chance, and he's difficult to get out of it again. So he's got a role to play. How big a role depends on our summer recruitment, not Craig Dawson's ability, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Pound for pound, Gio, in the Premier League era, have we made a better signing than Craig Dawson in terms of, value?
Well, in the Premier League, I mean, I would say yes. I would suggest that to some extent, Jesse Lingard on loan was better. I would say Dimitri Payet for 11 million was better in terms of pound for pound, as you're suggesting. Aaron Cresswell was under 4 million or 3.5 million or something. I'd argue that one as well. I know what you're saying, though. In terms of recent, in the last few seasons, obviously I'm cheating a little bit with Lingard, but if you were to challenge me to go and find someone in the last 3 or 4 seasons in the Premier League, not just West Ham, that cost money. It wasn't a free signing or a loan signing that you had to pay a transfer fee for, and was 2 million or less. I'm not sure if I could find one, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, we move to another centre back. This one could be interesting. Talk to me about Issa Diop.
See you. Get him in the bottom one. Bye. I need money to get. I want some money to spend. That's 15 million. Let's say 15 million. Some people might argue we'd only get 10. Some might say, well, let's say 15. I think I'd take that. It's not worked out. I actually like Diop. I think Diop's a good centre-back. I just don't think he's a good centre-back for David Moyes. I think Diop's sort of prioritising for defending is different to what Moyes prioritises. I don't think Moyes cares if his centre-backs are good at passing or not, or can dribble out from the back. I think Moyes just wants you to block some shots and head the ball, and that'll do for him. Whereas Diop, I think, maybe he's a bit more adventurous than that, if you like. A bit clumsy at times.
A footballing centre-back.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of people have disagreed with me on that in the past, but I think the fact that Pellegrini signed him speaks volumes to me. Which we know how Pellegrini likes to play football. It's not worked out for him overall, really, has it? He had a tremendous first season. We all thought he was worth 60 million plus, and Man United and that could do one. They weren't going to get him, but now you would take what we paid for him, really, wouldn't we? He's still got a long way to go in his career. He's mid-20s, 25 or something. He's got a long, long way to go in his career. He will go on and possibly play for the French national team if he leaves West Ham and goes to the right club. He's probably going to have to go back to France. It's not a bad transfer. Listen, we picked up somebody that was the captain of Toulouse, was in the French under 23s, I think it was. I think he possibly might even been captain for them as well. We picked up a really big talent for that age. It just hasn't worked out. That's the right type of signing I want to see West Ham make, though, where you pay a big transfer fee, but if it works out, if he worked out after the first season, he's worth 60 million,
Yeah.
If he's continued playing like that, he'd be worth 80 million by now. It just hasn't worked out. It was a bit of a punt. If we get 50 million, it's cost us 5 million to have Diop for a few seasons. That's a bit of a bargain, if you ask me. It's one of them. Nothing against him. Just hasn't worked out.
Yeah, it sometimes happens, doesn't it? It's just you can't put your finger on it. I mean, as you say, he's got a decent amount of pace in his locker. He's can head the ball. He can pass, but he just has these little lapses of concentration that can be the difference between a goal being conceded and not. And very often he falls the wrong side of that particular equation. But it is what it is. We move on now to Lukas Fabianski. What are your thoughts on the Polish goalkeeper?
I put him in 1 or 2 seasons, and it's almost reluctantly putting him in there. If we were doing this at the minute, as you say, we've still got 6 games to go. His last couple of performances are somewhat worrying a little bit. So if the next 6 play like he has done, like he did against Brentford, I think I might be putting him in C, or not sure. But he's massively getting on. He's 37 years old, I think. He's only got 1 more year left. I mean, he's waiting to sign a new contract for 1 more year. But he cannot be our number 1 next season. I'd keep him, but he's not. And I'd be making it very clear to him, you're not the number 1 next season. Areola is. You are the Carabao Cup goalkeeper. You'll get your games in the cup competitions, but the bread and butter stuff is Areola now. Areola had to be signed as a succession planning goalkeeper to some extent. We haven't seen it. I think we saw glimpses of it, and obviously he's playing the Europa League, which is a big testament, but I expected Areola to be the firm number 1 by now, and it's not worked out. And I'm not convinced it's because Fabianski's been that good. He's played well. He's had a good season, but he's deteriorated. Like we're talking about how Cresswell's performances haven't dropped off the edge of a cliff or anything. I think Fabianski's, it's maybe not off a cliff. It's going down a hill, though. Do you know what I mean? It's marginally getting worse. He's nowhere near the keeper as he was that we signed. When he first came in, wow, hello. He's not that good anymore. But he's still got something to offer. We're not going to have a huge budget in the summer, regardless of what people say. So I think to spend 11 million on Areola and have Fabianski as your backup, I think that's 2 good options going into next season.
Yeah, fair enough. That's I think that's probably where I would be putting them next season in terms of their where they are in the pecking order. I think there would be a definite reversal of their current statuses.
If Areola's not going to be the number 1 keeper next season, don't sign him. You can't spend 11 million on a keeper to sit on the bench. We're West Ham. We can't afford that. Hell, you even look at Liverpool. Even Liverpool don't spend 11 million on a goalkeeper to sit on the bench. We can't do it. I know they've got Keller now, but before, their backup keepers was our former keeper, Adrian, a freebie. That was the Liverpool can't spend 11 million on a keeper for the bench. We certainly can't. So if we're going to sign Areola, he has to be number 1.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we move on now. Pablo Fornals is the next on the list. So talk to me about him, Gio.
I'm going to put him in long term. I am. I can understand why people would maybe put him in different ones and stuff, because he doesn't really score enough goals for an attacking midfielder, does he? He doesn't possess that goal-scoring threat that he should have. But I think you get away with it as long as there's enough players around him that does. So we've got Bowen, get a striker, we can get a left winger in as well. Then Fornals is okay. I think the problem is when Fornals is your 3rd best attacking player on the pitch, I think that's when you've got a bit of an issue. If he's 4th, he's fine. But he's the glue. He's the one that can make these things happen. He allows you to have maybe a luxury player left wing or something going forward. Because he works so hard. Off the ball, he's perfect, works really well under a current manager, loves the club, loves the fans. Honestly, there's not much wrong with him at all. Yes, he's had some poor games of late, but this is the reminder, we are West Ham. We don't have players that consistently put in man-of-match performances every week. Well, we do. Declan Rice, but now we know what's happening to Declan Rice. He's wanted by better clubs. If Fornals was played to the best of his ability every single week, he'd be leaving this summer. He'd be going to a better club, but he's not because of that inconsistencies. So Fornals, for me, goes straight in at long term. And you need players in that top category. You have to have players in that top category. You can't just have them all in unsure or sell them or anything like that. You can't have a club like that unless you're in a relegation scrap. We're 6th in the league at the time of recording. We're doing something right. Fornals is one of those players that we've got right.
If you were in the hot seat, Gio, where would you play him? Would you play him on the left of the midfield 3, or would you put him as the 10?
Depends who we're playing. I think if we were playing at home against a team we're expected to beat, I think I'd play him sort of in a number 8 role, just in front of the defensive midfielder. I've often wanted us to play a bit more like this, sort of similar way to Man City and Liverpool do, with that 4-3-3 rather than the 4-2-3-1. So I sort of play him in the deep centre midfield line role. However, if we were away from home against Liverpool, I'd put him back on the left wing so that we've got like a defensive winger to some extent. So out of possession, we're really hard to beat. So I'd utilise him as and when. There's not many players I'd say that about, actually, or looking at that tier list. In fact, I think he's probably the only player I'd say this about. I'd move him around depending on who we're playing.
Fair enough. Next one out of the gate. His contract, I believe, is expiring in the summer. But again, it's about what you would do with this player. Ryan Fredericks. Would you be looking to keep him on, or?
I'm going to put him in not sure.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was, a month ago, I was convinced it would be Sia. I would have been like, yeah, just let him leave, on a free, whatever, it's fine. We've got Ashby, Johnson, Coufal, we're good in that area. But he's put in a couple of decent performances recently. His wages are relatively low, I'd imagine. Again, like Dawson, I'd be surprised if he's on over 40,000 a week. I think he's quite cheap. He's homegrown. The reason I put him in not sure is because of sort of question marks over the European competition that West Ham's playing. Obviously, when people are watching this, they'll know if we qualified for European football or not. If we don't have any, or we're only in the Conference League, I'd get rid of him. But if we're in the Europa League, I think I don't know. I think I'd give him a new deal, just like a 1-year contract, because I think we're in a position of strength for negotiating with Ryan Fredericks. I think we can offer him a 1-year deal, and well, he might reject it to get long-term security elsewhere, but he won't get a good club as West Ham. He probably won't get a bigger wage that West Ham are offering. So then it'd be up to him. I think if we had Europa League football gates, I think I'd give him another 1-year contract, because I think he's got a role to play in the squad. And you need that. The biggest problem we've had this season is squad depth. The last thing I want to do is remove the little squad depth that we do have. We need players that are willing to sort of be a bit part player. Fredericks is one of those, and there's not many, but Fredericks is one of them. So I'd be tempted to keep him on.
Fair enough. He's in the first.
Give me a bit of a spoiler. You've done some of these already. Is everybody putting him in the goodbye thing?
A fair few.
Yeah, I'd imagine most would.
Yeah, but listen, your explanation you've articulated. I think it's a valid point you make. It is dependent upon what we have to confront next season. Is it European football, yes or no? And if he's not got European football, then yeah, it may well be that our need for Ryan Fredericks to be around the squad is less than it would otherwise be. So fair enough.
We've also got injury concerns over Coufal.
Yes. Yeah, he's his groin, wasn't it, that he was out with earlier this season, wasn't it? So yeah, and as you say, he's 29. I think he's going to be 30 later this year. So, and Ryan Fredericks, he was a free signing, wasn't he? So yeah. So, but next one, this is a youth, an academy graduate that's come through. Also, another right back. We got an awful lot of them. Ben Johnson.
Top tier, easy enough. Keep him around for the long term. Not just a homegrown player, but now we're in the European competition. We need players that have come through their own academy as well. You need 4 players that's come through your academy, essentially, in your squad. Ben Johnson's one of them. Obviously, we've got Declan Rice, but we don't have Mark Noble anymore. So as of next season, we don't have Mark Noble. So we've just lost one of those. And it's very hard to replace that in terms of the numbers. So you don't need to have 4. You can only have 3, but then you lose a player in your squad. You just have to have a squad of 24 instead. I just think it's a waste of a space. But all that aside, even on just ability, he goes in long-term planning for me. Can play right back, play left back. My worry for Ben Johnson is, though, I don't know if he's ever going to be good enough to be first choice right back or first choice left back. He already is good enough. Backup right back, backup left back. He's got that, right? He's our second choice right back and our second choice left back at the time of recording, which is unique, but he's done it. I'm not convinced he's going to have enough to ever be first choice right back, undisputed right back. I've got too much question marks over the offensive side of his game. Defensively, I think he's brilliant. I think he's superb. Going forward, I know it can be improved, but usually there's something to give you a little bit of encouragement that it is going to improve. I'm not even seeing encouragement, to be honest with you. Just worries, actually, but certainly has a long-term future at West Ham. Just not sure he'll ever be. I'm not sure he'll have a position.
Do you think that he actually thinks what you're thinking, and that's possibly the reason why the contract's not been signed?
No, I think he's thinking, hang on a minute, I'm getting mugged off here. Because I think Moyes has dropped him unfairly at times this season. I think there's been a couple of times when Johnson's come in, done well, and whether it is Coufal or Cresswell, fit again or unsuspended, they've gone straight into the team and Johnson's come out of it, and I think it's unfair. So if I was Ben Johnson, I'd very much be saying, well, hang on a minute, I'll wait and see. Do you know something? At time of recording, obviously, we've just played Brentford, Coufal played, fine, he's back from injury. Tell you what, Thursday night against Lyon in Burnley next week, that's when you might make up Johnson's mind, because if he starts Coufal and Cresswell against Burnley, if I was Ben Johnson, I'd be saying, do you know what? I'm not signing a new deal. I deserve to be ahead of them in the pecking order. I've come in, I've played really well, and I'm straight back on the bench. I think we've almost got Genevieve and Gaki eye here, where Ben Johnson wants reassurances over his game time, and he's not getting them.
Yeah, and we all know how that turned out. Okay, well, the next one, again, this could be quite tricky for you to answer, because I think at the time we recorded this, it's 6 appearances he's made in all competitions. Alex Kral?
Do you know something? I'm going to put him in not sure, because this is my opinion, not David Moyes' opinion, right? He's not had a fair crack at the whip. He just has it. I don't know if he's good enough or not. Like, I can't sit here and say he's rubbish, send him back, and let's not do that again, because if you take Kidderminster Harriers out of the equation, because that's the one that blurs a lot of people's thoughts on Alex Kral, that performance, and it was really bad, right? So but if you remove that Kidderminster Harriers performance from your head, the rest of the appearances, he's done all right in the Europa League. He was fine in when he played the Carabao Cup against Man United at Old Trafford. I thought he was one of our best players. So he's not done that bad. You watch him from, the guy's an international for the Czech Republic. You don't, he's Thomas Soucek's partner. You don't do that if you're a poor player. So he's a good player. We just haven't seen it at West Ham. So I'm going to put him in not sure, because he's just not had a fair crack at the whip, actually. I think we've mugged him off a little bit. This is a guy in his mid-20s, a pivotal point in his career, and we've just taken him on loan and done nothing with him. We wasted a year of this guy's life. I feel a bit harsh, actually. I think we've mugged him off.
Yeah, I do have to scratch my head and wonder what the reason behind it is. And because this was a guy that was linked with us for a good while. And I know a lot of people say, but he didn't have a very good Euros. But I'm not really sort of too concerned with that, because anybody can have a good or bad tournament. I mean, we've signed players on the back of a good tournament that have turned out to be absolutely hopeless for us. So I'm not in love with just looking at them in isolation in a major tournament and making a snap decision based on that.
I'm convinced we scouted him thoroughly before the Euros, decided we didn't want him, but then he was available on loan on transfer deadline day, so we went and got him just because he was available on loan. And I think we've got an element here where David Moyes is looking at him like, but I didn't want him. I've done my due diligence on him, and I don't want him. But Sullivan's gone, well, yeah, but we can get him on loan, £1 million for the year. So there you go, that you can have a squad player to use. I just think Moyes is stubborn. Like, I don't want to. It's a bit like Saïd Benrahma last season. We know Moyes didn't want to sign Saïd Benrahma last season. He didn't get a look in. He didn't get a fair crack at the whip because it wasn't Moyes' signing. I think it's almost Moyes saying to Sullivan, stop giving me players I don't want. You've done it with Benrahma. You've done it again with Kral. That's just me guessing here. I don't know for sure. I'm just guessing because I find any other explanation hard to believe other than Moyes has done his scouting and just didn't want him, but we got him purely as a signing of opportunity because he was available on loan. So I thought, oh, well, we'll have him.
The cupboard was bare and that was all that was left.
Yes.
So, fair. Okay, next one. Manuel Lanzini's made a bit of something of a comeback this season, I would suggest. Is that enough for you to keep him at the club, or? Yeah,
1 or 2 seasons comfortably. We all know of his desire to return to Argentina to finish his career there, and I've got absolutely no issues with that. I quite respect it in a way. I quite like it that you've got a player who almost has a career path marked out. He doesn't know how he's going to get there, but he knows what his final destination is going to be. It's just a case of how far can I go, kind of thing. And if we know about it as the fans, the club definitely know about it. He's definitely told David Moyes what his intentions are eventually to return to Argentina. Everyone's on the same wavelength. I think on his day, in terms of ability, I think he's up there as one of our best players. In terms of creativity, control and tempo of a game, I think he's one of our best players. I think he's got lots to offer us, actually. In the last few months, I think he's become a vital member of our first 11, never mind squad. Well, it's a very short-term thing, Lanzini. I think he's got a couple of years left in him, and then you'd be looking to move him on, kind of thing. But he's going to be one of those players that's, in 2 seasons' time, he's going to be at the club for nearly like 10 years, but it doesn't really feel like we've seen him for 10 years. I know he's had a couple of long-term injuries, but it doesn't feel like Cresswell feels like a 10-year stint at West Ham. Lanzini doesn't. It's a bit strange, that. But, yeah, I'd love to have him for a couple of seasons, then let him go, hopefully at the end of his contract, and just say thank you very much for your service.
Okay. The next one now, just a little caveat I have to place with this next player, David Martin. This is purely David Martin, the player, because I've had a few people that have said, oh, well, can I sort of like keep him at the club as a coach? You can, but this is not, we're not talking about David Martin as a goalkeeping academy coach. This is David Martin, the player. So talk to me, Gio. You're the manager. What are you doing with him?
I'm putting him in not sure.
Ooh.
Because I would need to go and study how Nathan Trott and Anang's got on this season before I decide whom is going to be my third choice keeper next season. But not only that, if you keep Trott in particular around, you've got to register him. He's too old now. So you either need to send him out on loan or you keep him and you register him. If you're going to do that, you can't really have any other goalkeepers in the squad. But his wages is like nothing. I'm sure he's on like a few grand a week at most. What's the point of getting rid of him? What do you benefit? You save a handful of pennies for a Premier League club. It's not really I think you gain more keeping him on for another season than you do just releasing him and getting the financial rewards. There's barely any financial rewards. I think he'd be my third choice goalkeeper next season, actually, just because of the wages he's on. And I know you've done that whole caveat, but there is a route for him into management. And part of the reason we got him, I believe, is because he's really good with the youngsters. But that doesn't mean you can't have a squad role and still be really good with the youngsters at the club at the same time. So, yeah, I'd say not sure, because it depends on the development of Trott and Anang.
Fair enough. Okay. So the next one, and I suspect this one, I think I know where this guy might be going, but you might shock me, Gio.
I will.
Arthur Masuaku.
I'll get him gone. Honestly, I've never been his biggest fan. He's cost us points. I know he's won us points against Chelsea, but that's the worst thing that could have happened to us to some extent, because Moyes then kept playing him for a few weeks afterwards. Yeah. He's not good enough. I don't want him in the team. I don't want him on the bench. I don't understand why he's on the bench. I'd rather have youngsters. I'd rather have Harrison Ashby on the bench than Arthur Masuaku. But there's no... Listen, in terms of his character and whatnot, I genuinely applaud that. Like I said, I've got a lot of respect for somebody who doesn't play because of the choice of the manager like Masuaku has. Yeah, whenever we win, he's the first person on social media saying well done to the players that were involved, that got the win and stuff like that. You get a lot of players that do the opposite. If they're not playing, they say nothing. If they're out injured or something, that's cheating. But if they don't get picked, they're left out on the sidelines and the team do well and win, often they'll just say nothing on social media because they weren't involved. They don't want to pick it up. Masuaku, complete opposite. In terms of a character, his commitment, I've got no complaints. This is judged solely on footballing ability, and he's just not good enough. He's a good age, his wages are quite good. Good guy. Good player to sell. I don't know what you'd get for him. 3-4 million. I'll take it. Just get him out of the club. Get a left back in that can play left back. I think part of the problem is, though, he isn't a left back. He's like a left wing back. If you're going to give him a position, we're not playing with that. We don't have a place for him in the team. Yeah, he's the first name on the team sheet out the door for me.
Fair enough. We're moving him on. Now, we've gone alphabetically up to this point, but this next guy I want to leave till last, Gio. The next guy I want to leave till last on an alphabetical footing. So I'm going to go to the other end of the queue now, and I'm going to take you to Kurt Zouma.
Straight in the long term, what a signing he's been. One of our best players this season. If he didn't slap a cat around, I think he might be in Ham of the Year contender. But he did smack a cat around, so that's going to stop him. But when he plays, we are better. There's not that many players in the team you can say that about. Okay. Cresswell, we might get slightly better, whatever, but just Rice, Bowen, Kurt Zouma, they start, we're better. He makes our defence better, he makes his defensive partner better. I was never convinced by the Europa League pairing of Diop and Dawson, was never convinced by it. And then when Zouma went out injured, I was sort of proven correct. I think they weren't very good in the Premier League. But Kurt Zouma, unbelievable player. Really, really delighted with what we've got from him, and big part to play going forward. I think he'll wear the captain's armband eventually as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I do. I think he'll eventually be the captain of West Ham.
Hopefully not for a little while, I hope. Fingers crossed, but we'll
vice captain. He might be the vice captain soon.
Yeah, you never know. But next is Andrei Yarmolenko, who in recent matches has had something of an impact, but is that enough to spare him from you wielding the axe, Gio? Or?
No. See you. I'm actually a bit of a Yarmolenko fan. I find myself defending him quite a lot. He's just under the wrong manager. He doesn't. His style doesn't suit Moyes' style, and vice versa. Sebastian Haller, this kind of thing. It was a nice little romantic story, what happened, obviously, especially what's going on in his home country, for him to then come off the bench and score the winner twice. It's unbelievable. No one could have written it, kind of thing. Thank you for the memories, and genuinely, because you scored the winner against Chelsea, which helped keep us in the Premier League. You scored a goal that put us through in the Europa League, so he's had a big impact. He's part of our history, Yarmolenko. But you're also on $100,000 a week and not very good, and you don't suit the manager's plans. So, and you're usually injury prone. The only reason you're not injury prone this season is because we've not been playing him. So I would move him on ASAP in the summer. I know he's out of contract, so big handshake, say thank you, because he has saved our arse, but it's time for him to go.
Yeah, move on. Good luck in your rest of your career, mate, but it's not.
Yeah, and genuinely, because he's done nothing wrong at West Ham. He's done nothing wrong. He was injury prone when we bought him. We knew what we were buying. We bought an injury prone player and got surprised he was injury prone. And when he has gone on the pitch and stuff, I always feel like he's done his best to contribute. I think he's got a similar sort of mentality that Lingard had, which is we will win every game. We keep on trying to score goals and stuff. And not to the extent, when I said when Bowen plays, we've got a chance to score him. When Yarmolenko's on the pitch, you've got a chance of somebody creating something out of nothing. And I still think he's our best technical player. I've always said this. If you were to drop a ball from a crane and the player has to control it with one touch, I reckon Yarmolenko wins that.
High praise. But yeah, it just hasn't worked out. No. So bit like you mentioned earlier when you said about Issa Diop. For a different reason with Yarmolenko, part of it was injury, but yeah, it just hasn't worked out. He's a very gifted player, but it's just, sometimes the pieces of the jigsaw don't fit. And I wonder if that might be something you possibly attribute to the next player. What are your thoughts on Nikola Vlasic?
I'm not sure. Jury's out. I think whenever we sign a player from abroad, I always say right off the first season, if they do contribute, wonderful, and hopefully they do. I ain't going to judge them until season number 2. So this season is when I'm going to judge him. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit more in his first season, a bit more encouragement, a bit more glimpses of quality, you know. We've not really seen that. It's a bit worrying. I think it looks more like a waste of money rather than a player in wait to go on and do something. He wouldn't stop me spending big on an attacking midfielder. Does that make sense? You know, this summer, it should be like, well, we don't want to spend 30 million on a player because we've got Bowen and Fornals and Vlasic. Well, I don't think that. I think we need to go spend big on an attacking midfielder because we've got Vlasic and he's not doing it. Jury's out, but at the minute it's looking a bit more like we've made a mistake rather than this is a player that's going to unlock this season.
What do you think if you were the manager looking at Vlasic and you're wavering, do I, don't I? What do you think if you got made an offer in the summer, at what point do you think you'd go, oh yeah, I can't turn that down? Would it be getting your money back or a little bit of a loss? Where are you at?
It's difficult because Moyes obviously knows a hell of a lot more than you. So he knows about the character of Vlasic, which is obviously important to the manager, and he sees him on the training ground and stuff. And from the limited stuff we can see, whenever we score a goal, he's the first one celebrating Vlasic. He's jumping up and down on the touchline. He's running on and stuff. So I think in terms of his commitment to the club and his character, I think it's bang on. And I'm not sure why it hasn't worked out yet. Maybe it's just not good enough. But in terms of moving him on this summer, I think it depends if you knew who you were going to go buy. If Moyes thought, oh, there's an attacking midfielder for 20 million I really like, then yeah, sell him for 20 to go and get that guy. But if Moyes didn't have someone lined up, it's like Sebastian Haller. We sold Sebastian Haller with nobody lined up, right? I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't sell him and get the money in just for the sake of selling him. I'd only sell him if we had somebody that we were going to move for immediately. It's a bit like Grady Dingana. Moyes wanted Eze, but we couldn't get him because we had the money. So then we sold Dingana for money. But by the time we'd done that, Eze was gone. But then we ended up going and getting Said Benrahma on loan. So the sale of Dingana was justified because Moyes needed the money to go and get somebody. But Haller was sold him almost to balance the books for cash flow. I wouldn't do that with Vlasic. I wouldn't sell him just for the sake of it. It'd have to be to go get somebody that Moyes identified that could come in and improve the team.
Fair enough. Okay, the next player is, as we record this, the incumbent Hammer of the Year. But I think it's fair to say this season, I don't think he's in contention for that award. But what are your thoughts on Thomas Soucek?
Long term, which may surprise a few people. Yeah, I think he's a good player. I just don't think it's worked out for this season because of the Declan Rice thing. That's it, really. I think we're going to lose Rice eventually. It seems inevitable. So as soon as we lose Rice, go out and get a midfielder that's going to complement Thomas Soucek. Go get somebody that can play next to him and take the shackles off him. Go get a defensive midfielder that's not going to ask if he can go on surging runs down the middle of the pitch and improve his attacking game so he's more appealing to other clubs around the Premier League. Don't go get one of them. Get somebody that's going to get the best out of Soucek because he's an animal for Czech Republic. I watched Czech Republic's internationals not long ago. They played Sweden. He was good. He played well in that game. They come back from West Ham and he was anonymous again. We are the problem. It's not him. It's we. We are the problem. So I think he's got a long-term future at West Ham in the eyes of Gio. I think he's limited on the ball. I've always felt like that, though. But that's okay. We're aware of it. That's fine. Utilise his strengths, which is arriving late in the box and getting on crosses. We're not doing that. So let's get back to the basics with Soucek, and you'll have a Hammer of the Year contender again. But for me, long-term.
Fair enough. And we actually come neatly to his midfield partner, Mr. Declan Rice. Where's he going, Gio? Don't say Chelsea or Man City.
We put him in not sure.
Okay.
It depends on the bid.
Right.
You know, I think I'd love to put him in long term, but I can't because if you're going to put him in there, you've got to have confidence he's going to sign a new contract. I don't have any of that, so I've ruled out long term. Would I sell him? Depends on the price. 1 or 2 seasons, depends on the price. So that's why I'm putting him in not sure. So over 100 million, I'd probably sell him. Less than that, I'd probably keep him. I'm aware there's this other argument, which is maybe we just let him leave for free at the end of his contract. You know, he arrived, he didn't cost us anything. We have a world-class player for a few seasons, and he departs for free. You know, do we just enjoy the fact we've got a world-class player? I'm not sure I can do that because I think the fee involves too much. I think if we're talking Dimitri Payet type stuff, someone in his 30s kind of thing, I'd understand the argument. I'd say, you know what, yeah, let's just keep him actually and let his contract run out. Because by the time he goes, he's 34, you know, it's time up anyway. What we get for him, 20 million, what's the point? Just keep him. But this is different. This is a £100 million plus player here. And a club that's done their business behind closed doors will know who to go get as soon as that money arrives. A bit like Villa did with Jack Grealish money. I'm not saying Villa got it right. Villa had a plan. And that's what West Ham need, a plan. West Ham should have already identified 3 players that they will move for like that if Declan Rice is on the move. So if the big bid came in, I'd sell him. But if the big bid didn't come in, I'd keep him. That's why I'm going to put him in not sure.
So you would. So if someone came in with 100, you'd shift him on, or needs to be a bit more than that.
I think 100 would be my buy-to point. I'd like to think we could get a bit more, but I think 100 million. Because I almost respect Declan Rice too much. I think he's given his all for the club, and even now, when it looks like he may want to move on, we know he wants to move on. He tells us all the time that he wants to win trophies. He'd love to do it. I actually think he would love to do it West Ham. He knows West Ham ain't going to do that. We're not going to be winning the title anytime soon. So because he's given 100%, he's not handing a transfer request. I mean, it might be easier if he did, but he's still going about everything the right way, Declan. I think out of respect, I wouldn't make it too difficult for him. Because also, I think what you've got to do is to appeal to the next batch of players that you're going to use to replace Declan Rice. When you go to try and recruit a youngster for the academy, you almost have to demonstrate that there is a path into the first team. You've got to say, look at these guys I've made in. We've taken them in. They're in the first team now. Come play here. Like Crystal Palace now go after the best players in the Championship. They're going to point to Eze. They're going to point to Elise. They're going to point to the likes of Guy and say, look at all them. They're in the first team. If I'm a youngster in the Championship, I'm signing for Crystal Palace. That's my number one team because I know I can get into the first team. But what you're doing with Declan Rice's case is you're going after the sort of potential wonder kids of football. So you come to West Ham, and if you do well and a big club comes calling, we won't stand in your way, we'll let you go. And I think it's important because you need to appeal to these clubs over Leicester and anyone else that's going after the same ones. You need to have an edge. And unfortunately, at the minute, it is to be a stepping stone to go from the club they're at into a side competing for titles. West Ham is the stepping stone. And I don't think that's a bad thing for now. Further down the line, you'd love to be that team that's competing for the titles. But I think you then need to just have a little bit of sex appeal for those players that might want to go on and do better things than West Ham. Because a lot of players are reluctant to move because they don't want to block their move to that big club. Do you know what I mean? Jude Bellingham's done it. He's gone to Dortmund to win things in Germany and stuff. I bet you Bellingham went to Dortmund thinking, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to get in the team, play at a really good level, then I'm going to move on to Manchester City or Liverpool. West Ham could be a bit like Dortmund in this case. Come here, do well, we'll compete for the Europa League, the FA Cup, whatever, and then when City, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barca come knocking, we'll let you go. And if they don't make it, if they're not good enough, we have an excellent player in our hands. Happy days.
Fair. That's a good explanation.
Sorry for the rant.
Situation. No, it wasn't a rant. I thought you've articulated your point excellently. So, I can't say that there's an awful lot that I disagree with that. And in fairness, Gio. But okay, we're down to the last 3. Darren Randolph. Does he?
See you.
Is he going to take much? No, didn't think so.
No.
See you later, mate.
Yeah, he's not on a couple of grand a week like Dave Martin is, and it's just off.
Yeah, it's a shame. He obviously was the goalkeeper in that last game at the Bowling Ground, so he's got a little place in.
He did
West
a role.
Ham history,
he came in so we could get rid of Roberto. It was important to sign him at the time But that's it. It doesn't make him a bad goalkeeper. That is just that we're looking at the thing we've got. We've got Areola, Fabianski. We don't need Dan Randall. He tried to leave in January. The club blocked it, which was a bit harsh. The club should have let him go. And I think we should let him go this summer as well. Get him down to a championship club where he can play week in, week out.
Fair enough. Down to the last two. This next one could be interesting because as we record this, he's not made his comeback into the first team yet, but he's on the grass, as David Moyes likes to say. Angelo Ogbonna, what are your thoughts?
It's one of the middle two. It's just a case of how much am I going to bottle it.
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you don't know how much this injury's taken out
that's
of him.
why. If he's going to play like he did this season, he goes straight into 1 or 2 seasons. But if the injury is going to impact him, then I'm not sure if I wanted someone on 70 grand a week that's only going to play a handful of games and turns into Winston Reid, aye. But for that reason, I'll put him in 1 or 2 seasons because I think the contract would only be 1 season. I don't think it'll be a long-term thing. So if we get it wrong, it hurts us for 1 year and that's it. But what it does do, I think having Ogbonna in there allows you to sell Diop without really putting your club under too much pressure. Because we can't, if we go after a centre-back this summer, we can't have new centre-back, Dawson, Zouma, Ogbonna, Diop. We just can't. We cannot have 5 senior centre-backs. We're not rich enough. It's unnecessary. It's just stupid. So something's got to give. Now, if we're also keeping Zouma and Dawson, and I'm speaking about me, you, and David Moyes here, so that means one of Ogbonna and Diop's got to make way or we don't sign another centre-back. And I'd like to see us sign another centre-back this summer. So, but I think with Ogbonna, it's a short-term solution. He comes in, if he plays like last season, pardon me, we're laughing. It's a bit risky though, but I think we owe it to him. I think he's given enough to West Ham. Really nice guy, comes across really well, been with us for a few seasons now. And also, I think he was going to get a new contract just before he got injured. So I almost feel like in the name of fairness, I'd give it to him anyway. And to almost be a club with morals to some extent, it is a bit of a contract on sentimentality grounds, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that sometimes. We sit here, the club will be the first people to throw their arms in the air and complain about lack of loyalty when Marko Arnautovic hands on a chance. Oh, where's loyalty? Well, let's see some loyalty from West Ham then, in this case. You can't have it both ways. So I'd give him a new 1-year contract and judge him next season. Give him the rest of the season and the summer to get ready for next year as well.
Fair enough. We come neatly to the last player on the list. Club captain, something of a legend, it has to be said, at this club. Mark James Noble. Now, we know that this is going to be his last season at West Ham, and in all likelihood it's going to be his last season as a professional footballer. However, Gio, if you were in charge of West Ham United, would you be waving him a cheery bye-bye, or would you possibly put your arm around his shoulder and go, Mark, you're a long time retired, you can do a job coming off of the bench, League Cup games, 10 minutes here and there in the Premier League, get the odd penalty, mentor the young players coming through. What would you do with Mark Noble?
No, I wouldn't. I'm a bigger fan of Mark Noble as you get, really. He's my all-time favourite West Ham player, but I think the time's right. I think it's on his terms, which I think is important. I think too often you get players, legends of the game, that looking at Ogbonna as a prime example, that sometimes that decision is taken away from them. It's like, you have to retire now because of injuries, whatever. You look at the likes of Rio Ferdinand, left Man United, went to QPR, and his career just nosedived, didn't it? And it almost tarnishes your career to some extent, and I don't want that for Noble. He's going out at the minute, possibly West Ham qualifying for European football back-to-back, which is just ridiculous. I think it's a good time. Plus, in a strange way, we've got Declan Rice here, and it seems it's a bit of a nice story that he's able to hand the captain's armband over to Declan Rice, and departing over. Declan Rice doesn't be captain for one game away to Brighton, and then he hands it to someone else as well. But it's set up for Mark Noble to hang up his boots this season, but be very much making him part of my backroom staff in some capacity. It'll be sad, but no, I wouldn't have him here next season. I think this is where we need to kick on as a club, and it'll be interesting to see what we do, really. We've obviously got Connor Coventry, but the fact that Kral and Noble's leaving this summer means we've got 2 centre midfielders we've got to recruit for. And if Rice leaves, that means we've got 3. That's not a good thing, is it? But for Noble, I'd be saying, thank you very much, mate. You've made the right call. You're going at the right time. But please don't leave the club, and please stick around a bit longer.
Fair enough. Gio, I'm going to go full screen with this just real quickly. So we've got in the top tier, we've got Areola, Ashby, Bowen, Fornals, Johnson, Zouma and Soucek. 1 or 2 seasons, we've got Antonio, Coufal, Cresswell, Dawson, Fabianski, Lanzini and Ogbonna. Not sure. We've got Fredericks, Kral, Martin, Vlasic and Rice. And see ya, get out the door, don't come back, is Benrahma, Diop, Masuaku, Yarmolenko, Randolph and Noble. Gio, it's been emotional, but we are at the conclusion of the West Ham United squad player tier list for season 2022-2023. How did it feel to be West Ham manager for an hour?
It was nice. I finally got to live my dream away from Football Manager. Now I've got to cling Football Manager to see out my dreams, but it was nice to be on this side of the questioning. And it was actually quite reassuring to do that, because I think if you'd done this 2018, 2019, 2017, I think most of the players would have been in the bottom category. You know, like you'd be saying, sell him. So it is nice to sit here and see the squad split evenly across the board to some extent. But there's enough players in the key. The players in the 1 or 2 are all age related, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's not that many in the bottom tier. And the ones in the bottom tier is because of the end of the contract of their age, like Randolph, Yarmolenko, and Noble. And then you've only got 2 that you want to sell in Benrahma and Diop. That's a good thing. The fact that I've only got 2 players, Masuaku, sorry. See, I even forget about him when I'm doing a conclusion. That's only 3 players I look at in the senior squad. Only 3 players I look at and say, I'd sell them. They're not good enough. So I guess it's a compliment to the club for the work they've done over the last few years, and the manager for what he's getting out of the current squad. But it is a big summer. This summer feels huge for West Ham. I didn't get this feeling last summer. I thought we could have done with some players and whatnot, but it didn't feel pivotal. This one does. I think part of that's because of the uncertainty over Declan Rice. We're obviously losing Noble. We need a striker. So this one just feels like monumental, actually, which is going to determine if West Ham remain as a side challenging for European football, if we're a side that's almost going to slip into mid-table obscurity. You know, Leicester City is a bit of a reminder there that they were competing for European football 2 or 3 seasons on the bounce, and suddenly they're struggling back in mid-table. They look a bit stale. You look at the team and it looks a little bit like they need a bit of a shake-up. This summer is going to determine if we still do a West Ham, keep punching above our weight, or if we do a bit of a Leicester and slip back a few seasons, and we look back in a few seasons' time and say, well, a couple of seasons in the Europa League was fun, weren't it? And it becomes a bit of a memory rather than... Yeah. But I don't want it to be a memory. I want it to be routine, regular, if you like, at West Ham. So this summer is going to determine that.
Yeah, fair. Okay, Gio, just a little bit of housekeeping before we leave. Please don't forget to like, comment on, share the stream, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. As always, we thank you very much indeed for your support. Gio, I'm going to finish just asking you a very simple question, my friend, if I may. What are we?
Massive.
That'll do me, my friend. Come on, you Irons.